Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
As we have this conversation, of course, we're asking ourselves, can the youth build political power in this country? Can they gain political power? What's the direction to take? But first, let's start with a very, very important quote. Janoma quotes has gone back into who said what when?
Who said what when? Wangari Maathai, who? When? 2004.
Right.
What?
Why? What? She was passionate about leadership. She said, wait too long and we miss the moment. Move too soon and we may stumble. Leadership is knowing when to do both. I'll take it again because I can see you're jotting it down. Wait too long and we miss the moment. Move too soon and we may stumble. And then leadership is knowing when to do both.
So what am I supposed to do there?
You're supposed to internalize, reflect, and share how it lands with you.
Of course, leadership is about timing. Actually, there's even a type of leadership that is actually time-bound, where, and I usually use this example that leadership is not sometimes permanent. Like, for example, if there was a fire here, and Eric, for example, knows how to take us through a fire drill. So in that particular instance, he is our leader. But once we go downstairs, he cannot then claim he is our leader. Or once we get to 2027, he does not insist that because I helped you take care of fire on that morning, then you must elect me.
Yeah.
So the essence of time, strategic timing, and the relevance of time, it's literally, we can even make it biblical and talk about seasons, times, and places. Yeah.
It's a good one. Knowing when to
Right.
is the thrust of this quote.
Yeah.
How do you know when to not to wait too long? And how do you know when not to move too fast so that you stumble?
Allow me to illustrate. I'm a millennial, and I will say this, that one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing today is because I realize that Gen Zs are doing the same mistakes we millennials did. They are doing the same mistakes we did. There's nothing new that they are doing, especially on the mistake side. That is why, for example, properly, 2022 should have been the finest hour for millennials. But they lost out. We do not have the critical mass of millennials in running of public affairs and in leadership. And the few that fell through, of course, the cracks, they went through because of the wrong way of doing things, sucking up to politicians, providing violence as a currency, some of them just being available. And that is why we do not have a critical mass of millennials now in the political space. So the when part of it is very, very important because somehow, of course, give it to the millennials, they entirely didn't come off through for nothing. We were able to structure the youth sector. Before it was actually quite violent. We were able to define it. Article 260 of the Constitution defines that, and of course we have got Article 255. I know a number of people who went to Hilton on that day causing problems and telling a Kuro court and the others that we must have a youth-specific article in the Constitution. So of course there's Article 55 and then of course Article 260 under the definitions, so 18 and not having turned 35. Before that, you would meet a 45-year-old can youth wing and everybody else calling themselves youth. So at least that they did. And then on the
Young
policy, but at least we have to define. And then of course, there's the part of policy. It's the millennials who ensured that we had a youth policy in place. Then all these funds you see around here, it's the millennials who push through so that then they can have the very many youth funds that we have. Of course, we are a country of funds. So somehow we try to be, we are that generation of order. But you see, like somebody I don't want to mention will say in the days of old that we millennials were the generation of 1, 2, 3, 4. One wife, 2 children, a 3-bedroom house, and a 4-wheel drive car. We are very selfish, quite self-centered, and that is why it's been difficult for us to have serious people. Today, by the way, you wouldn't be having a problem. Look at the rest of the country. You wouldn't be having a problem where people are asking, if we do away with William Ruto, who else do we replace? You keep on hearing that conversation. In a country where you have got a whopping 7.4 million millennials, and we are asking, and remember, these are the most educated, as in, this is the most educated population ever. Yet, people are asking.
We are asking ourselves, where is the option?
Where is the option?
And we are calling back retirees.
Yeah, so we are bringing
copying
people
them and saying-
from time. So the issue of timing, knowing when to do things right, for me is best illustrated in the situation, or rather in the scenario that I've just put out.
Very well articulated.
Yeah.
Take us back into your own story.
Yeah.
Because as a millennial, when did you start getting engaged politically?
Right.
And why?
I have always been in the space of organizing. I remember when I went to Kakamega High School, I became a prefect on day 3.
Hey,
Form 1 anaweza kuwa prefect.
class prefect.
Yes. I became a prefect on day 3. And by the way, I didn't go early. I went to school late because there had been a challenge on how I would get fees. So, and I've been in that space for quite a while. In school, in church, at the Redeemed Gospel Church in Huruma, where I grew up. And then, of course, at some point at the Redeemed Evangelistic Fellowship. Then I got into the National Youth Council, organizing that deliberately, build up from the delegates, and then eventually was elected as the Nairobi region representative to the National Youth Council. We were about 16 of us. Trying to check out the 16 of us that were elected. Of course, one is late. And then, of course, I've been chairperson. I was the first chairperson of the TNA Youth League. I have also worked in the political spaces, and I'm a founder member of at least 2 political parties. I don't want to give them unnecessary... they are not paying me to be here. Founder member. In fact, the last one I was number 6. There's a way I love number
On
6.
the list of founders.
Yes, sitting down and crafting it, I was number 6.
Why did you leave them?
I left them because immediately after restructuring it, I went to Somalia for work, where I still work up to date, by the way. And then when I came back, once you've been away shortly, when I came back from Mogadishu, I found the party had changed. People were giving me conditions. That's how I ended up in a different party running in 2022. Then, of course, the last assignment that people know, and that, of course, the good thing is that having done communication for a party and a ruling party at that, I'm used to pushbacks. That's why I wouldn't rush in the morning when people are sending messages and you're being called names, like my friend Fanyamambo did. That night, he saw a little fear of God and the terror of the devil by way of public participation.
Salimio.
And in the morning, he put up a statement and said, I didn't know you guys had these guys this much. Then after we had a conversation, he says, now I see sense, and he came back.
Okay.
So I then worked at UDA for some time as the advisor strategic communication. At some point, it was a little bit tweaked to bring in public policy. And then later on along the way, for purposes of preparing for 2027 and looking at what had happened, I realized that the dream and the reality were different. So I chose bila mabaya, bila machungu, just to move on and create a political party, because I think I have been in that space enough, and now I'm aging, and it's just fair that I then put up a platform of what I desire to be out there. Also, I realized that in Western, where I come from, I'll not mention the politician, but then I had an uncle of mine who was dead, so I showed up, and as an employer of a political party, I pushed it. There was one politician who's known in this country, and then another one who's also known, and there's a senior one in the political party that I serve. Then my own MCA, my MCA, who is my own cousin at home, was also there. I realized that everybody else, remember, this guy is elected on UDA, my MCA at home, who is my own cousin, first cousin, is elected on UDA. Of course, in that constituency in Matungu, he's the only one. I realized that all of those guys, I have not mentioned the others because they can speak for themselves, but you can check them out. They're always on the edge. These guys are working for this regime. They're much higher than myself. But when they are talking to the congregation, they don't talk about the party. They talk about themselves. So because I'm working at the party, I'm the one who's pushing the party agenda. In the evening, one of those old men, who's a very learned guy, calls me and asks me, do you ever talk to your mother when you do these things here? So I ask him why. He says, you realize that our people did not have a problem with you talking about yourself, but when you talk about the party, they have issues. So, and then of course I started thinking about 2027, and my opponent at home, who is the MP, had decided that now I become the poster boy, because on the other side,
Of the failures
of this regime. So for him, it was so easy, no working. You just like, this is the spokesperson of these other people that are causing problems here. I realized
I can't blame him. It's low-hanging fruit.
Yes. So I then thought, long term now, I consider myself now sufficiently old to actually be an elder. or rather an aspiring elder. So I thought the
People
longer...
get one gray hair and they call themselves an elder. One
I like
gray hair.
aspiring elder. It's a good one.
Well, I'm actually a junior.
When we were young.
When we were young. When we were
I'm a
Gen Z.
junior elder because now in my family I'm the oldest man because my dad is late.
Okay.
And now so my mother has only the oldest man there, then is me. So with that I don't have to actually make a lot of excuses, and I'm at the age where a lot of people have
Will
actually
defer to
succeeded.
you.
Tom Mboya was at this age, he was dying I think around this age. So many guys have actually pulled through, so we cannot continue to be around that. But there's something that I've been doing since 2018 deliberately, doing mentorship. Latif will know that about 40% of the young people that you see on TV today were actually introduced on TV by myself. I was running a deliberate program that brings young people into this space. A little bit of my journey is also here. Sometimes back I came here and spoke to Emmanuel Juma when he was here and told him that we wanted a show for young people when I was at the National Youth Council. During that time, there was no youth-focused shows during morning hours because the argument was that young people were not serious people for morning shows. And I don't know that it is safe to say that. So Emmanuel Juma listened to me, told me to do a proposal. I came with it here and pitched. Then the challenge became to find a host for that show. They said, we will try. Then you will become in as a control agent. You will be on that show for the next about, every Friday we will do the youth show. Then you will come in because you are the owner of this idea and you had been pushing. Because on Fridays, the newspapers had done so well. There would be only entertainment for youth. I don't know whether Trevor will allow me to say this, but that is the day Trevor moved from radio to TV. Because we were trying to look for a host who will do a youth show, serious current affairs issues in the morning. And
but looking and sounding youth and also being youth.
No, there were guys there whom we wanted to hold, but then they felt like the ratings would be so low and it wouldn't be serious. So that's how then Emmanuel Juma then would go down and bring Trevor from radio here and then bring him on TV because Trevor was the only person at that particular point who was very passionate. So when you see...
So Arnold, that's your journey. To cut you short.
Eric, just a moment.
Yeah.
So when you see all TV stations doing youth shows on Friday, it started here. And everybody after that, when it became successful here, everybody else replicated. Now you see every Friday, if you check around TV stations today, everyone is doing youth. It started here.
Okay, that's true. Thank you for giving us like that background, and I think I've threaded with you and I've seen the growth, the work that has gone into it. I want to know if there's a different way of doing things. I'm looking at our X space, and you can join, by the way, just search NTV Kenya on Twitter or X, however you decide to call it, and you'll see the space right there. Ask for the mic if you want to share. But I wanted to ask someone who was here yesterday, Louis Ngunyi. He goes by Nanyuki Billionaire on X. His thoughts on what now political engagement processes look like, right? That was how millennials have done it. Boomers had their own way. Let's see the Gen Z way. Let's give the mic to Louis.
Yeah,
and
he'll
get
have to
his
request
thoughts.
the mic and then
He has
unmute
it. He's a speaker.
He has the mic? Okay, Louis, let's hear from you.
Go ahead, Louis. Okay.
Can you hear
I'm not
us?
sure he can hear us. Okay. For some reason, he can't hear us. But I'm looking through the comments on that X space on whether youth can, Gen Z specifically, can build political power and what that would look like. Wolf Totem says they can. June 25th, 2024 was a watershed moment that proved that old tactics can't work anymore. Since then, conscientious Gen Z have refused to be co-opted to support tribal and class-based politics. They are legion, unpredictable, and enjoy the support of most millennials and Gen X. I want to underline that last part because do young people enjoy the support of most millennials and Gen X? Because it has to be Gen Zote if we're being serious. Our population is young, fine. 65-70% of the population is young, fine. But without millennials, Gen X, older millennials and Gen X.
That number is wrong.
Which number?
That our population is young.
Gen Z is globally at 32%.
Yes.
Or 31.5%. And here it's slightly higher, it's about 32%.
Right.
So,
but I said just young people.
Unless you are,
Gen Z.
Kenya is a child-rich nation with slightly over 50% being under 18. So unless you're bringing in even Gen Alpha and the babies.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
That's good perspective as well.
Yeah.
But yes, without the support of millennials and Gen X, this movement is likely to just
Do we have generational missions? And then maybe those missions are clashing. Does Gen
Is
Z
there a
have a
mission?
mission?
I think
Does
just
millennial...
going back to what Arnold said, you know, the failures of the millennial generation, the failures of the X generation, where I belong, the failures of the boomers who are there. There are a few people who come out and they, you know, take on the mantle of leadership. But are they doing it because as a generation, or are they doing it as themselves?
Or themselves for a generation.
Yeah.
But
You know, literally every generation, I think somebody, I don't know if it's Frank Fanon who says that that every generation must actually identify its mission and either bring it to bear or go down with it. But the reason why we have got those age sets, and even in the days of old, there were age sets where people would achieve a certain goal, and there are threats that present themselves, threats and opportunities that show up during a certain time frame. It means that the people who are on watch during that time, they're not supposed to be doing it. So if you look at, for example, our generation, there's so much that we achieved. I will say up to date, of course, the economy runs on the cogs of millennials. Those are the people who are in the middle management. Those are the people that literally today are running the economy. They're now paying fees. They are carrying the biggest burden in debt servicing. There's no generation that has ever done that. But we also have to hasten and say that there were a few things. I think the 844 system at that particular point ensured this is that particular part of food ile yenye iliiva 844 kama ilikuwa ndio kupika sufuria ya kupika hiyo ndio yenye iliivisha kabisa vizuri because then after Kibaki came in there were a little bit radical variations to the 844 system that has actually given then birth to what we have today, the CBC system that we have today. So of course, the dynamics around how people grow through, you're going to build leadership, the dynamics are the same. You have to, first of all, mobilize. That is so common. You're going to bring people together. You will have to do relational, whether you are calling it networking or whatever, you will have to network, build relationships intergenerationally or within. And of course, you have to demonstrate competence. If you don't demonstrate competence, no one is actually going to take you serious. Then, of course, you must also work with structures. And that is why I feel that the failure of the Gen Z's movement last year was premised on one thing.
Failure?
The movement last year, we see everything they fought for has actually been walked back on. And if you look at the just war theory, you know that men should not die aimlessly. You should not take men to die. If you take men to war as a commander, they should not die for no cause. So everything they fought for was legit. But do you know that over time, of course, government found ways of actually passing the same bill in bits, and that this particular year, they now want to affirm that. And they've become very clever and
but what part was a failure?
The leaderless part of it. Everything rises and falls on leadership. I know that the people of my generation, who I think in Kambani would be called Kavaluku, the millennials, used the Gen Zs as the vanguard of that particular struggle, legit as it were. For organizing, you don't blame anyone else. But pushing the leaderless agenda is what actually causes that movement not to actually make a serious prick. Everything must, of course, they had leaders who chose. You would argue that tactically, people were afraid that the government would target them. But then I have come to realize that it was strategic. It wasn't tactical. The idea of leaderlessness was not tactical the way we thought. It was strategic. And that is why you see those who have come out of that particular... It was, I think, designed to ensure that no leader of note emerges from that particular movement. I don't know for whatever reason, because those who have emerged out of that particular movement feels like they broke the law or they committed some treason
against the grain.
So all of them, you see, there is too much fighting. Of course, you will say that, of course, the group dynamics, we're going to talk about forming, then the storming. The Gen Z movement should be way past storming, but there's too much fight. And that's why, like the other day, I met a few young people and told them, why are you guys not able to come together? Because you are not even targeting the same thing. You now have become a critical mass. In 2027, we will have 8.4 million Gen Zs who can actually vote. If you bring in the 7.4 million millennials, you have got 16 million votes.
Right.
And if generationally that was anything, I know sometimes we've argued that the youth vote is not a block. There is no voting block called as youth. That they can actually be very eloquent, quite on X, very eloquent, quite woke, but when they vote like the grandmothers in the village. They call back home and ask, "Uko mnapiga aje kura?" And you realize that we can be as progressive as is out here, but once it comes to vote, you see the ethnic patterns emerging.
Let's pause. Mariam, you want to introduce the caller?
Yes. There's a caller on the line. So much. I have so many thoughts, but let's get to the caller. Robert, what's your question or comment on this idea of Gen Z building political power?
Thank you very much. I always remember the name of Eric, but I do follow every morning. I got into a line when the other guest was there, that we went for a break, coming back to the new guest.
Right.
First, let me just contribute first on the root cause of the goons that we were just talking about.
Okay.
That was very much interesting. It is something that I don't see it ending today. I am a politician. I'm a millennial who is a politician, and I work today because of politics. I got employment through politics. I serve in the county government. The issue of goons, I think we have been confined in a pot of poverty for politicians to use us during politics. And they don't like seeing you getting out of that kind of that pot, so that they get people that are available for them to use them as goons.
Okay.
Then there is this sector rising up, the border sector, that is being used to do a cover-up. Most of our goons are hiding in this sector. And we are in a country that we are fighting to realign our political line. But even our leaders are doing things that will keep you wondering. The other day you saw Pondokaloma was fighting in a podium, physical fighting. This is an MP who has served more than 2 times. We have seen some of our MPs, the young MPs that the lady was quoting, Babu Wino, Ditmas Baraza. We have seen these people taking life. Yeah, those are serious things. Then what do you expect the people that they lead? Which kind of suit do you want the people they lead to follow? So the issue of goons is a matter that will be taken care of and taken with a lot of seriousness to handle in this country.
I agree.
That's because of time. What the guy is talking about, I want to disagree, and I wish I was sitting next to him, that the GenZs failed. That one is totally wrong. The first attempt, the GenZs did not have an agenda. People came out to fight for the bill, to fight so that we have a better life from what the MPs were trying to do. And there was no target. So when people came out to demonstrate it was not only the GenZs, it was the entire Kenya were demonstrating, but responded by the GenZs, they were informed. So none of them failed. And I want to tell him that coming in life, they will build their political power. Things will change with the times. Change needs some time. Okay. So it was the first attempt, and I expect that the second attempt it will be better.
Right.
And the political issues of this country will change. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. We'll definitely get into it, and I know I've seen your reactions from all around. We'll get into what you've said, but I do agree with what you said about Bodas. I do agree it was absolutely not a failure, but I do think he was speaking more to the structure and the strategy and aspect of it. And we'll get into that. Let's go on a short break. Hashtag remains Fixing the Nation NTV. Join our X space by searching NTV Kenya on X. And of course, give us your thoughts. Ask for the mic if you want to say something. We're now ready to go live. We'll come back with, of course, Arnold. And we'll also get back in with Lewis on the X space. Now we have a caller. We have to get into our X space as well. So let me start with our caller on the line, and then we'll get into our X space. I know, Lewis, we didn't get to hear you the first time, but Odwar is on the line, has a comment or question. Good morning, Odwar.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. What's your comment or question?
My comment is on the question that has been asked about can Gen Z form a political something or nation? The truth is that Gen Z ni wazuri. Ni wazuri sana kwa sababu wako na nguvu na tena pia ni watu wamesoma ambao wanafanya kazi nzuri na tumeona wakifanya kazi nzuri last year. Unfortunately people died, but they really did a good job.
Yeah.
But for 5 seconds, imagine Gen Z as a president. Na utaona State House tu ikiwa kama tumani pa sherehe.
Ikiwa kama
sasa Gen Z. Imagine Gen Z for 5 minutes. Just my opinion. Imagine Gen Z as a president. And these are the people that most of the time they really attack. Most of the time they really attack the church. And when
Odor, can you imagine Gen Z as a member of the National Assembly or a senator?
Yes, I'm coming. Just a minute. I'm coming. So you see, they are good people. They have energy. They have knowledge. They have the strength. So they can be good leaders. But I'm saying that at least there must be someone, at least a matured person, pale juu kidogo, and then Gen Z wakuwe at least kama ambao wanaweza support. Kama kwa parliament is okay, but I'm trying to imagine Gen Z as a president. And I'm not saying they are not supposed to lead. They are good leaders.
Quick question. What have these mature people done for you? We have people who by age are mature. Our president, all our presidents have been above the age of 50. What have these mature people done for you?
Okay. Let me say that kuna rais kama Mwai Kibaki. Yeah. Mzee ambaye alikuwa ametulia na anafanya kazi yake kwa utulivu. Sisemi kuwa wote ni wabaya, lakini kuna ambao wazuri ambao wanaweza fanya nini? Wanaweza fanya kazi nzuri. Lakini sio kwa hawa wenye tuko na wao saa hii. Lakini tukipata mtu mzuri ambaye shida yetu unajua ni tamaa. Tamaa ndio inaharibu Kenya. Mtu akiingia pale anakuwa na tamaa mingi. So Mungu akitupatia mtu mzuri ambaye anaweza ongoza, ambaye hajakuwa kwenye kiwanja hii, ambaye hajakuwa akinyanyasa watu, unaona tunaweza mpatia nafasi. So nikisema mature, I'm not saying that Gen Z should not lead. They should be leaders, but at least tuone huyu mtu ambaye anaweza ongoza kweli. Lakini kuna wengine wanakuja kwa sababu tu ya kutafuta pesa, hata wanasema wanapigania watu, lakini wakifika pale hivyo ni wanaanza tu kushikwa na tamaa. So shida kubwa ni tamaa.
Thanks.
Iwe kwa watu machua ama iwe kwa watu wadogo. Shida ni tamaa.
Thank you.
We should immediately get now, Louis.
Yeah, let's go into the
Come in
space.
swiftly.
Yeah,
with the
then
response.
I know. You have many thoughts that I can tell.
Just put your
hold
notes
them. Louis, thoughts? I know you've heard what has been said by Arnold. You know you've had Odwar. You've had Robert from Migori. Yes, thoughts? Wow. Okay.
Are you speaking? Unmute your mic.
Yes.
I hope you can hear me now.
There we go. Okay. All right, Louis.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
We're not getting him in studio, unfortunately.
And I think he's speaking, but yeah, we're not able to get him in studio.
We have Harrison, though.
Yes.
Harrison Mumia.
I am unmuted.
Oh,
okay.
finally. Yeah, there
Go
we
ahead,
go.
we can hear you now.
Louis, we can hear you. All right. Harrison as well, you said?
Yeah, Harrison Mumia.
Harrison Mumia for President 2027. That's his
That's
his username on X. Go ahead, Harrison. Let's see if we can get you.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, NTV, and good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I just want to say one or two things. And by the way, I will be running as an independent for the presidency of this country. But I will talk about that later. I just want to talk about Gen Z and building political power. If you look at our constitution, I think it provides pathways to political power, either through political parties and of course, if you're talking about political parties, any Kenyan is allowed to register a political party. And I'm really encouraging Gen Zs to do that. Register political parties. You don't need to belong to one. There's this debate I've been seeing where all Gen Zs need to belong to one basket. I don't agree with that kind of approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think let people organize themselves and align themselves with what they believe in, and you don't need to have what you call a Gen Z, one Gen Z direction. People should have different approaches, and the Constitution does not limit anybody from registering a political party. However, I do think that Gen Zs, a lot of Gen Zs in Kenya face challenges.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have the kind of financial muscle. It's not easy. To register a political party in Kenya, you need like 5 million. I was sitting in a meeting somewhere where you need 5 million. After that, you have to mobilize, you have to launch the party like the way Rigathi Gachagua did. You have to align yourself with others and share your vision. So I think politics in Kenya in general is a very expensive affair, especially when you're thinking of running a political party. It is a whole enterprise. And I think that is one big challenge that, of course, Gen Zs face. But I already see a few individuals organizing, and that is a good thing. In Kenya, what we need is have what we call a politically vibrant society. No one person should be, the way Ruto wants to be. Ruto wants to be the president. He seems not to like dissenting voices. Mm-hmm. But I think we are a vibrant democracy, and political parties should be registered. I wish it would be much easier to register a political party. But I think it is true that Gen Zs can actually get to power. There are challenges, but with a lot of commitment, you can do that.
So Harrison, you allude to formation of a political party being one of the greatest impediments that you see. And is that why you aspire to be president as an independent?
No, I want to be the president as an independent because I do think the mainstream political parties, and you will see these as we approach 2027, these are parties that belong to individuals. I want to stand out as a very different individual. The change that Kenyans are looking for. If you look at Article 137 of our Constitution, it's very clear. You can run for president as a nominee of a political party or as an independent. So why I'm running for independence is I just want to share with Kenyans my vision. I would like those of you who are going to align with my vision to work with me, not as a political party, but work with me and what I'm proposing as the way forward for Kenya. Okay. I have a very clear vision. Yes, so I just want to stand out. I don't want to go. Let me tell you our problem. Just give me 1 minute to say this. The political parties we've seen, if you look at the political party culture in Kenya, we don't have like a political party culture. When we are approaching elections is when you will see somebody grabs a political party and then puts colors, like the way Rigathi did. You saw what Uhuru did with Jubilee. Jubilee is dead. Look what Kibaki did with PNU. PNU is dead. Mm-hmm. Look at what UDA right now is dying. It's a dying party. Mm-hmm. If you look at now, Rigathi has come up. I never knew this political party. This one of Rigathi naitwa hata nimesahau.
Democracy for Citizens
Party.
Okay.
DCP.
Exactly. But this political party also is just he's using it to get to power. After that, there'll be wrangles. Sijui nini. And at 2032, another political party. So I think let me run as an independent, and I will be sharing my vision as we move on.
Thank you, Harrison. Thank you. We'll give you the mic one of the days. Shika mic. Tuambie why.
Please invite me. Invite me. Please do.
Sawa, asante sana.
Slide in our dear Mako at NTV.
Yes.
Just thought we can pick up the conversation. Thank you, Harrison.
A lot to respond to.
Right?
I think my kinsman is running away from this reality. That the only reason he wants to run as an independent is not for the very many reasons he's given, but that political party registration and management is a little bit difficult. In 2022, to stem a rise of formations, Parliament came up, or rather the regime of the day, the leadership of the day then came up with very stringent laws on how you register a party. It's so difficult to register a party, and that's why they even extended that it takes at least 270 days to register a party. If you are to follow everything step by step, and you do not have a lot of money, it will take you a minimum of 270 days. But that does not mean that that's how you'll actually make it. You can actually it can actually go way beyond. So it's so difficult. But it's important to say this, that the political party system might not be perfect, but it's been tested, and it's the best way to approach politics, because you are going to govern men. This thing called govern a man, governance, govern whatever. It's about many people, and you cannot be a lone ranger. If you cannot even organize a political party, if you cannot organize a few people, how are you going to lead the rest of us? It has to begin somewhere. So the political party system is not perfect, but it has got its own merits. It builds leadership, it builds resilience, it even consolidates ideology, political planning, and everything else, so that you look at how a party is run and you can actually see a reflection in government. Somebody spoke about violence, and I think that's the headline on the Daily Nation today, the shame of political thuggery. I don't know whether people have realized, but I have realized that the former deputy president is strategically under house arrest. That people do not see, but somehow the deputy president, wherever he has gone, the former deputy president, or rather the second deputy president, has always met violence. Remember, if people are beating you in Nyeri, what will they do to you in Kakamega? So somehow there is this recurring element of violence around whatever he does.
There's a ring of violence.
So they've actually given him a ring of violence, or rather cordoned a ring of violence around him. So for me, I look at it as a house arrest. That guy cannot move without violence. And I think it should be condemned and called out. Because today it is Rigathi Gachagua, and you might not like him.
Right.
But then tomorrow it will be you. And that is something that we really need to call out. If you check out properly, these guys are beating him even in Wamunyoro. If people can beat you in your own, in a place where generally you should actually have an advantage, that for me, I look at it as a house arrest. They've constrained him in partly Nairobi and central Kenya. Beyond that, just imagine what will happen if they're already showing you, this is what we can do to you in Nairobi, in your own premises. What will we do to you outside of that particular place?
Dangerous precedent.
Then Odiwar said that I spoke about Gen Z failure. I didn't say that. I meant that there's an aspect that I feel that initially we thought that was tactical when they went out for a leaderlessness, at least to make it amorphous and to make it strong.
Right.
But eventually then I realized that this thing was actually strategic, and probably it was designed to ensure that no new leaders emerge. Because if you were to ask me, what sin has Makoure committed? What sin has Morara committed? What sin have the likes of Joshua Okayo committed? Nothing. It's simply because they emerged out of a process. And honestly, this particular movement, for us, a lot of the leaders you see today, the millennials, a lot of them came out of the struggle for the National Youth Council. The MCAs, you see, a number of members of parliament, a lot of them came out through that particular process. For them, the finance bill will actually have been a good place. But you see, they have got this vampire mentality where you maul down each other. We were doing that. And that's why, like I said, for we as millennials, we brought down a lot of our leaders then.
Like who?
Very good leaders. Everything that comes up in this country, everything, you're either NIS, you're either a project, you're either being funded from somewhere. There's always that. And if Eric comes out of this table and he appears like he's going somewhere, instead of lining behind him for strategic advantage, we pull him down. Some people call it the crab in a bowl mentality. And I think as a country, we have got a collective Stockholm syndrome. We suffer from a collective Stockholm syndrome. In 1973, there was a bank robbery that turned into a hostage situation for 6 days.
In Stockholm.
Yes.
In Stockholm, in Sweden. And then what ended up is that I think there were 4 of them, 6 or 4 of the people, hostages who were there, ended up falling in love, quote unquote, with their hostages. Have you realized that as a country, we know what is wrong? We know that this side is not serving us. These particular policies are not right. But somehow we defend the same. And that is why, for example, like what we are trying to tell guys is that we will not be changing wardens. That you see, if you're going to remove William Ruto, who I believe, by the way, he deserves 2 terms. 1 term in State House, he's already serving it, and the second one in committee maximum prison for the very many things he has done. We believe that he shouldn't be there. Other people on the other side feel that Wamunyoro, who is actually the other side of the same coin, is the option. How do I look at it? I look at it as 2 wardens. We are fighting to replace 2 wardens instead of talking about a prison break. So collectively as a country, we suffer from a Stockholm syndrome, and it's something that it's a prison we need to break out.
The prison break happened in June 25th. It was a mild prison break.
It was an attempted prison break. If they had leadership, Janet, let me tell you this. These things are things people don't want to talk about, but now we can talk about them. We have got an IC3, Integrated Command, Communication Command and Control Center. We spend about 18 billion shillings to put CCTVs in town. It's integrated with analytics that in the morning, people sitting to control that system can actually even tell how many people have come to Nairobi in the morning, because just by looking at vehicles and the non-motorized traffic. We put in 18 billion. How is it that on June 25th, somehow the IC3 did not see that about 100,000 people were coming into the city and therefore prepare, because the Nairobi command collapsed? The truth is that if GenZs, the reason why I said that the element of leaderlessness actually failed them, the truth is that on 25th June, if they had a proper leadership, they would have taken over the state. The state collapsed. It was total chaos. And there was a lot of insubordination. And I will not mention units. There are police units that refused to show up in the city for enforcement. 100,000 people are not difficult to control. Let's be realistic. We have got capacity to that end as a country. But the state collapsed on that day. If they had proper leadership, the only thing they missed was leadership. Anyway, they've already breached parliament. So parliament as a target is already taken care of. And because the state has employed violence, we normally call it in our side language, we say the state has taught the people who came out a little fear of God and the terror of the devil. It means that people know the consequences of coming out. And the truth is that those young people have suffered trauma, so they can only fight online. They don't want to come out. There's a collective trauma to that extent. But the truth is that normally movements mutate. The next movement that shows up knows the consequences. It definitely the target will not be parliament, because people already got into parliament. So what are you going to do there? And even after getting to parliament, parliamentarians have not changed the way they do things. They still have done nothing about that thing up to date. So if any other people show up, I can tell you that it will be very different. And that's why I was speaking to the issue, telling Oduor that I didn't say the movement failed. They succeeded in very many things. And by the way, a lot of the things they fought against have actually been walked back. Opulence is back.
Right.
Lying is back. The budgeting, look at the budget. They've just learned how to break it down and make it look like it's not there.
Hide it.
Even the other day when you saw no one less than the Director National Intelligence showing up and literally painting a hopeless picture. The truth, Eric, is that, of course, with the noises now, especially from the GenZs and now the new culture, it's becoming difficult for politicians to plan for corruption. So the easiest way to actually get political money is to stash it within in the security operations. So it was nothing to do with the state of the country as is, but it was a man singing for his dinner. Because look at this. Our security we have got the biggest defense budget in the region, yet we have got the smallest army. We have got the biggest policing budget. Check our neighbors by comparison. Yet we actually have got the smallest police force. So it's not necessarily the enemy within. I know the nation ran the headline saying the enemy within. The enemy within is not those small
external threats.
Those threats is actually corruption. Because explain to me why we have got the biggest budget consistently for over 20 years in the region,
And
yet we have got an ill-equipped military, an ill-equipped intelligence setting. It's not possible. Where do Ugandans buy their equipment that we cannot go? Which market?
Pause it there. We're going to the top of the hour. We have other people who've requested for the mic, and they have the mic. Of course, we have Louis, who is in Nanyuki. Kasmo Mokaure has requested for a mic. He's going to get it. Other speakers who are online, Joshua, Edward, everybody else. If you'd like to contribute to this conversation, you can request the mic, or you can go ahead to the comment section and you can type your comment. Can Gen Z, and here Gen Z, we're using the term loosely to mean the young population of this country, can the youth build political power? That's what we are discussing on X-Space Meets Broadcast. That's on Mike Kwa Digital. Back in a moment at 9 a.m.